You know, the crypto market can feel like just pure chaos, right? It's this wild mix of incredible hype and these absolutely brutal crashes. Well, today we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're going to build a framework for thinking strategically, and we'll use some real-world examples of projects caught right in the middle of the storm. And we're starting with a really big puzzle.
So let's start with this number, 19 million. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how many people have actually completed their identity verification, KYC, for one single crypto project, the Pi network. I mean, that is an enormous built-in user base. It's the kind of thing most projects can only dream of. But this is where the puzzle really begins.
Because despite that huge community, the token's value has, well, it's completely collapsed. It went from a high of nearly $3 all the way down, plummeting by 93%. So this brings up a huge question. How can a project with such a massive following see its price crash so dramatically? This is the central conflict we really need to get our heads around.
And that leads us right into our first section, the Pi paradox. We're going to unpack all the conflicting signals surrounding this project to see what's really going on under the hood.
Okay, so check this out. What's so interesting here is how you have two completely different stories being told about Pi at the same time. On the one hand, the bullish case is pretty compelling, right? You've got that giant user base, they've launched tools for developers, and there's even talk of a potential listing on a huge exchange like Kraken. But the bearish case is just as strong. We're talking about a massive token supply, not a lot of real-world use for it so far, and of course, that staggering 93% price drop.
So when you're staring at these wildly conflicting signals, how in the world do you make a smart decision? How do you stop yourself from just throwing money at the hype and, crossing your fingers? Turns out, you need a plan.
And that brings us to Section 2, a trader's survival guide. This is where we shift gears a little. We're going to move from looking at just one project to learning a framework that you can apply to the entire market to avoid making some really costly mistakes.
This quote right here really just nails the whole challenge. The opportunities, they're absolutely real. But the market, it's unforgiving. As one source puts it, it can be a ruthless teacher. Honestly, learning from the common mistakes other people have made is one of the fastest ways to protect yourself.
And one of the biggest emotional drivers behind those mistakes is FOMO, the fear of missing out. Come on, we've all felt it. You see a price just skyrocketing, and you get this overwhelming urge to jump in before you miss the boat. But that emotional reaction, it's a trader's worst enemy. It almost always leads to buying at the peak and just trading impulsively.
So, how do you fight FOMO? The answer is having a disciplined trading plan. Look, this isn't about trying to predict the future. It's all about managing your risk. Before you even think about entering a trade, you have to know three things: your entry price, the price where you're going to take your profits, and, this is the most important one, the price where you're going to cut your losses, no questions asked.
And this just lays it out perfectly, the two different mindsets. The emotional trader is always chasing hype, trying to win back losses with angry revenge trades, and is just driven by pure greed. The disciplined trader? They stick to the plan. They manage risk above everything else, and they know that a few well-thought-out trades are way, way better than dozens of reckless ones. See, the goal isn't just to win, it's to survive long enough to keep playing the game.
All right, now that we have this framework, let's actually put it to the test. In our third section, Hype versus Fundamentals, we are going to apply this disciplined lens to another real-world project and see how it helps clear up the picture.
Let's take a look at another project called Hooked Protocol. A lot like Pi, it's been sending some very mixed signals out into the market, which makes it a perfect test case for our little survival guide.
So, on one side, the bearish news for Hook is, well, it's pretty severe. It got delisted from major exchanges like Binance and BitGet. That just crushes liquidity and really damages its reputation. But then, on the other side, the project has over 3 million monthly active users. It's expanding its ecosystem, and some technical indicators are suggesting it might be extremely oversold. It's another paradox.
And this is exactly where the framework becomes so valuable. This chart helps us separate that emotional noise from the hard data. So for Pi Network, the hype is all the price to the moon posts on social media. The fundamental signal, that massive, verified user base. For Hooked Protocol, the hype signal is the panic selling after the bad news. The fundamental, its own substantial user base and the fact that they're still building. See, the framework helps you focus on what's actually tangible.
Okay, so let's bring all of this together. In our final section, we're going to distill everything down into a clear,
actionable mindset that you can use to navigate this crazy market.
This really brings us to the trader's mindset. It's a journey, and there's a clear path. It all starts by avoiding the hype and those emotional traps like FOMO. Then it continues by creating a clear strategy and actually sticking to it. And ultimately, it's about patience and discipline. Because success isn't about being right every single time. It's about staying on the path.
And that's really the core message here. Cryptocurrency trading, it is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is a long-term journey that rewards consistent, smart, and disciplined decisions made over and over again.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. When all the wild price swings and the social media noise finally fade away, what's left? What are the fundamental things that actually give a project long-term sustainable value? That's the question you should be asking yourself. Thanks for joining me.